So guys, I want to do one more video for today talking about AEW, and I do appreciate that they have like dark matches for the Rampage show. So if you go to the AEW live show, go to Dynamite, usually have matches beforehand to kind of get the crowd ready, and then they also have matches before pay-per-views to get the crowd ready really. But also after AEW Dynamite, you see Rampage if you are in the audience for free. And then also too that if you are going to Collision, you see ROH matches. But the issue is that there's a lot of times where like the ROH matches and the Rampage matches don't mean anything. And there's a couple of reasons why I want to say that, and also tie in what I want to see improved. That the first thing that I do see is a lot of over the rope matches, and usually over the rope matches or Rumble type of matches are there usually to kind of give everybody time to be on camera. So that way, if there's 30 people bitching to Tony Khan about no TV time, how he can have a over the rope match. And I think the problem is that he does that too frequently. Like I remember how I felt after the Blood and Guts show. I didn't stay for the whole thing because you had like a 1 hour match almost, and then you're gonna have like a Rumble thing, which is another 30 minutes. So sometimes, and then you also did that like a couple of weeks ago. So sometimes what happens that I don't like is that they save Rampage for crappy matches or over featuring people. And I remember, like, I think the week after that, you had the over a rope tag team match. So sometimes what I would say is that try not to over rely on like multi-man matches, because as Jim Cornette said, that could be lazy booking. And then the next thing that I would say is like have matches with purpose. So what I would say is that and also have people promote matches. So maybe during like the intermissions, you kind of have like a match. You have like maybe have something like where Eddie Kingston says, "I'm going to do an open challenge," or he says like, "You know what? I see Keith Lee and he says that he's limitless. So on this episode of Rampage or on this episode of Ring of Honor, I'm going to face Keith Lee." So you have a lot of people hyping up matches and whatever, because I think that would be kind of good, but also matches with purpose. I also think that you can kind of also have a lot more women's matches on Rampage to really kind of help women wrestlers talk on camera, talk to the crowd during the intermissions if they have issues with, because they don't have a lot of women who can talk on the microphone that well. So if they kind of just give people a little bit more practice and have like maybe Rampage and ROH have more women's matches, it could be used to kind of make women's wrestling a little bit more popular. Then when people are ready, you kind of move them over to the main roster, and they either go after the TBS or the women's championship. And I think the next thing that I would kind of say is that you need more singles matches and more singles feuds. So for example, like I said about Swerve Strickland, that maybe once in a while, if he does a bunch of, if he wins the TNT Championship and on television he has main event matches with like former AEW heavyweight champions and other champions, he can probably do something like maybe during like a Collision show, he'll like face somebody on the roster, like maybe a Dustin Rhodes or Sting or another like veteran, just to kind of hype up the show, and then he talks about why he's so great. Or even like during ROH, you have him face Dalton Castle or a former ROH champion to really kind of put it over. So that way you're kind of like having somebody tell a story, like he's trying to build up his credibility, or he's trying to defend a title, but he's also like, giving other people time to speak and whatever. And I would also kind of say that, you should have MJF on the ROH shows. Like maybe like once a month, MJF and Adam Cole need to be on the ROH show, because they are holding the tag team champions and they should defend it. Because the problem is that you can't kind of do something like only have title defenses on pay-per-views, because if they're holding the ROH championship and they are a draw, why not do it? And I also will say that I think that what Tony Khan has to do is that when he sees a lot of people leave during ROH or Rampage, that should be note to him that he's not doing a good job, and that more than likely, when people are watching television, it's a flip the channel type of thing. I also think that there could be incentives, like if you people stay at the end, like the wrestler should, so one of the wrestlers should kind of come out and say, thank you to everybody. Or sometimes, maybe, as I said, maybe every like 10 shows, they kind of say, okay, well, people in the front row, do you want to come up and have a picture? And then you kind of allow people to kind of like move the barricade, people come in the ring and get their picture taken or whatever with some wrestlers. It like kind of creates some incentives to stay to the end, really. And I would also say that really that Collision and ROH, that with the AEW shows, there should be at least 2 ROH matches on their pay-per-views, and also 2 like Rampage feuds that are being built up and then be featured on pay-per-view. So again, like you may have like 2 women, like maybe 2 women feuds, or maybe a women's feud, and then you have another like match. Like maybe you have something like the Righteous or whoever, or you're trying to build up another star, and they have a bunch of matches on Rampage, and they're like, okay, well now I want to go after, let's say they go after Ricky Starks, or they're like, you know what, or somebody, or like, somebody's getting over a lot, and they're kind of like, I think I'm ready for Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho kind of appears and says, you're gonna back your shit up and face me, type of thing, really. So there's always a sense of, as I said, you're trying to make it must-see television, and then you're also trying to make it good. I think the other thing that I would kind of say is that don't over-rely on unannounced matches. Like I call that Marvel versus Capcom booking, because the problem is that if you're always having matches and they don't mean anything, it's like playing Marvel versus Capcom. You just have 50, 60 wrestlers, you're just making a team or a match or whatever with no purpose. You're there for more of the flips or whatever. You need kind of like stories and other things like that. And I would also say that the last thing is make sure Rampage and ROH dark matches has character development, because that kind of goes with what I'm saying about don't treat like Marvel versus Capcom. When you have matches where it means something and people are talking like before and after the match and it's leading to other matches or whatever, it really makes it must-see television. Like Julia Hart, obviously she, like you're trying to make her undefeated. What would happen if she has like a dark match with a woman? She has a dark match on Rampage, and then you also have her have a dark match with a woman in ROH, and you kind of keep doing that. You don't do something like it's Willow Nightingale like almost every other time, really. So that way you're just saying, okay, now she's undefeated, not just on Dynamite, not just on Collision, on Rampage and ROH. She's 4 times undefeated, or she's being 4 bitches every single week, type of thing, really. So I think that, it kind of creates, more meaning and more story. So that's what I have to say, really. So I do think Collision and Rampage can be a lot better. And Tony Khan has to understand, a bunch of people are walking out during those shows. It mostly means that they're fucking boring, and he needs to do something about it, really. So make it. So really, I would say just make matches with more storytelling, and make matches that could be also hype up matches for pay-per-views. Also, if there's like anything on Dynamite or Collision that needs more attention, you put it on AEW, and it's also a great opportunity to make the women's division a lot stronger by having women, talk on camera, and then also too, in order to hype up Collision and Rampage, you should have some wrestlers appear during the intermissions and talk about their match and what it means to them, and definitely the women to kind of give them more time to talk on the mic and improve their skills. And then the last thing I would say is you can do incentives, just like, okay, well, Edge stayed to the end, and now you take pictures with him in the ring, a couple of people from like ringside or whatever, or Swerve or somebody else, really. So it's all good stuff, really, that I'm saying. Like both shows definitely can benefit from being better.